Welcome to Gear Freak. Welcome to Gear Freak, I'm Patrick, and today on our first episode, we're testing archery targets. If you're just looking for a field tip target, bag targets are a great way to go. They're inexpensive, they'll stop the field points, and they're great for just putting out in the backyard and shooting up. So we wanted a target that could eat field points and broadheads and last you more than a full season. What's going on? Alright, go say hello. We purchased 7 targets from Cabela's. The Cabela's Impact, we got the Block Classic, the Reinhardt 18-1, the Block Black B16, the Mackenzie Shot Blocker, Cabela's Outfitter Broadhead Only Target, and the Morel Yellow Jacket Broadhead Only Target. These are the ones we decided to field test because these are some of the most recognizable targets on the market right now. So here's what we've got going on. We took 5 to 7 guys over 2 days and 2 weekends. And between the North Idaho weather, St. Patty's Day, babies being born, birthday parties, and everything else, it was tough to get all these guys together to do a shoot for 2 days. So day 1, we started with field points for an hour or so. Everybody shot their field points, we kept track of how many shots each target hit and recorded them. After an hour, we switched to broadheads. The second day was a combination of field tips and broadheads. We shot a variety of broadheads, muzzies, G5s, expandables, bare broadheads. Broadheads are the target killers, and everybody was going for center mass, trying to punch a hole through that center of the target and chew it up as much as possible to see how dependable and how durable these targets were. Well, as you know, when you start shooting broadheads, you start losing veins on your arrows. And once you start losing veins, it's hard to hit that center mass every time.
That one actually just has a slice in it from one of my other broadheads. So
2 shots and 1 hit. Once you start losing veins, hitting the center of the target isn't as easy as it once was, and arrows start going astray. On top of that, with equipment malfunctions like string loops breaking and other factors, it made for a fun and interesting day. So field tip removal. All the targets that we tested pretty much had easy field tip removal with a couple of exceptions. The Yellow Jacket, do not shoot field tips out of that. You might as well go buy new arrows because you're never going to get those things out. They get stuck and they do not come out of there. And when it says broadheads only, you better believe it's broadheads only. The Reinhardt 18-1, it was a little difficult to get your field tips out of. Until you got a couple of the first shots in there and loosened it up a little bit, then they started to come out a little bit easier. But initially, it was a little bit of a chore to pull them out. The Cabela's Outfitter broadhead target too was a little challenging. But after you got beat up by a couple of broadheads, yeah, it was easier to get some field points out of. The Cabela's Impact, the Block Classic, and the Mackenzie were extremely easy to get field tips out of. The Classic was probably the easiest, everybody agreed. 2-finger arrow removal, not a problem with that one. The Block Black presented a little bit of a challenge removing field points initially, until you started to work on that exterior foam, soften it up a little bit, then they came out quite easy. As far as field point damage, all the targets held up extremely well. The Block Classic didn't even look like it got shot at hardly. The one exception to that was the Block Black. The foam on the exterior was actually starting to get chewed up and holes were starting to form. just after field tip shots, so that was starting to be a little concerning for us. So here's how the targets held up after the broadheads. After the second day, we all sat around, we discussed which targets we liked and why, and that's where we got these results. So what are the final numbers? I'll tell you one thing, they're a lot lower than I thought. After 2 days of shooting, it felt like we threw thousands of arrows down that range. At the end of the day, some of those targets were looking pretty beat, and some of them looked really good still. Cabela's impact target, that was another one that we really liked. It took 85 field points and 54 broadhead hits. And at the end of the day, it still looked pretty good. It stopped arrows nicely, easy arrow retrieval. Unfortunately, it's a little tall, a little narrow, so it did have a tendency to kind of tip over. It only tipped over once on us, but it was a little wobbly on end there. There's another target out there called the black hole. It's the same target, the same construction, the same melted exterior. It's the same handle, different color, everything's the same except the Cabela's version is a little bit cheaper. The Block Classic, it took 78 field points and 58 broadheads. After the 78 field points, it didn't even look like it was shot at. The Block Classic actually surprised me. I thought it was going to fall apart quite quickly, and it held up excellently to field points. It still held up really nice for broadheads. Towards the end, it started to lose more and more of its internal guts. However, my friends down at Archery headquarters showed me a cool little trick. The Block Classic is actually just a bunch of layered foam with bands around the exterior. If you're willing to slice through the plastic on the outside and then cut the bands, you can actually take the center portion that's all shot up, take those layered foam sections out, separate them in half and put them on top and on the bottom of the target, and move the exterior parts in towards the center. And now, if you can band it or tie it down again real tight, you've got a whole new target and a brand new center to shoot at. The Reinhardt took 77 field tips and 58 broadheads. Every target we tested had an arrow sticking out the back, whether it was field points or broadheads, with the exception of one, and that's the Reinhardt 18-1. Broadheads or field tips with the Reinhardt were only penetrating maybe 6 inches max, and none of them went fully through the target. Now, it did have chunks missing out of it, but that target looks like it's going to last a couple of seasons, even shooting broadheads at it. With 18 sides to shoot at, and only about 6 inches worth of penetration, you can flip that target around and shoot at not only 4 sides, but then at the top, the bottom, and then the corners. You take the target by the handle, throw it out into a field, and have actual target practice from unknown distances. The Reinhardt isn't the cheapest online. It goes for about $110 or $100 on sale. Block Black V16 took 87 field points and 46 broadheads. And after that, it was looking pretty beat up. The target was starting to disintegrate just after field points. And once you started putting broadheads into it, it had no hope. The external foam that holds the layered pieces in was falling apart, and once that falls out, the layered inserts inside started pouring out of the target. We had immediate pass-throughs, and it was the only target that gave us a complete pass-through. The letter O is the aim point, it's a white aim point. The problem is, when you're looking at the target in low light, all the white starts to kind of melt together. And once you shoot out that external foam, you've got black layered foam on a black target, and you have no aim point. Everybody there agreed that the Block Black was probably their least favorite target to shoot at, and it was probably the most disappointing for them. If you're going to spend $80 on a 16-inch Block Black target and up to $150 on a 22-inch target, I think you have much better options out there, and a target that's going to last you more than a couple of months of shooting at it. McKinsey took 90 field tips and 51 broadheads. The McKinsey was really nice to shoot at. With the light blue background and the dark aim points, it made it really easy to see those aim points even in low light. And even though some of the shavings were coming out, you could easily take those out and still have a nice dark aim point on the front. And the back looked like it was hardly touched at all. So you can flip that target around and shoot at the back. Everybody liked shooting at that blue target. It seemed to hold up really well. I don't know what it was, that was just a fun target to shoot at. Cabela's version of the McKenzie, the shot stopper, is actually the exact same thing. Welded core design, made by McKenzie for Cabela's. Different color, same aim points. You can save up to $40 if you go with just a slightly smaller version, or $10 if you go with a slightly larger version. Cabela's broadhead target took 5 field tips and 63 broadheads. It looked pretty decent. The problem is it started to chew a hole in the middle, but it didn't allow the broadheads to come completely through the back. The one problem with Cabela's outfit, it has this corrugated plastic cardboard type of material on the face of the target. The only thing to aim on is the black background behind that corrugated plastic. And once the broadheads start hitting that and you're pulling the broadheads out, that has a tendency to rip pretty good. And after you shoot a couple broadheads into it, you're going to lose that, and then you're going to lose your aim point. It's a reasonably priced target, but if you're looking for a great all-around target, this is not the target. The Yellow Jacket by Morel took 5 field points, and we will not do that again. It's 69 broadheads. The Yellow Jacket was actually another one we were pretty disappointed in. It didn't seem to stop the arrows as well as we'd hoped, and the durability of the target was going downhill fast. The biggest problem with it, there's a foam cross-section actually glued onto the front of the target. And when you withdraw the broadheads, it tears that foam completely off the target. Once that comes off, you have a big black target, you've got a big hole in the center, and nowhere to paint a new aim point. Out of the Yellow Jacket, the arrows are sometimes difficult to remove out. They get caught on something on the inside of the target. And I know from previous experience, if you yank too hard, you'll pull the insert right out of your arrow, lose your broadhead and your insert. For the price of the Morel Yellow Jacket, $80, and having it only be a broadhead target, we'd suggest going with something else. So at the end of the day, what did everybody think? Well, it's pretty unanimous. Everybody liked the Reinhardt target. If they're going to go spend the money today, they're going to go buy the Reinhardt 18-1.
I definitely like the Reinhardt the best. I mean, if I was going to go out there and spend the money, you know, it's just going to last, period. Just going to last.
No, I think you almost have to break out, like the Reinhardt's in a class all by itself. I still think that Reinhardt is almost
Unbeatable?
yeah, indestructible. I mean,
it's not going to take up a lot of space if you have to take it out. And it's easy enough to carry around. It's light. The portability, the stowability, and the durability of that target is going to last you several seasons. So that's our review on archery targets. Thanks for checking us out. Let us know what you think at www.grfreak.com. Check us out on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube video series. Our next testing is going to be on trail cameras. Which one actually has the fastest trigger speed, best pictures, best battery life, and if you need to spend the extra money to get that buck of a lifetime on film. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Block plastic, take it on. More weapon, take like this. And then done.